Hey, Kim, what time is it? It's
It
time
is Save
for
My Piggies time.
right. It's time to save the piggies. Today's segment includes a guest by the name of Duke with his physician, Dr. Khatib. Duke, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello, sir. Thank you. Welcome to the Save My Piggies segment. Can you tell us a little bit about your vascular journey and how you got to meet Dr. Khatib?
Sure. Several years back, I was having problems walking and legs cramping, and I was seeing a vascular physician here in town, in Ocala, and I had several stents put in, some bypasses, and it went down the line to make it quick. I ended up clogging within 3 to 4 days. They sent me right from the x-rays over to the emergency room where the surgeon there wanted to amputate my leg. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? He said, well, before it gets any worse than what it is, he says, you got to amputate it. That was okay. We talked. I said, no. In the meantime, my vascular doctor at the time and said that I should have either a single or a double bypass. And I'd already had 3. And I said, I don't understand. I said, if it was you, Doc, what would you do? He said, I would opt for the double. I said, okay. I had to go back in the hospital emergency again before any arrangements were made. Of course, I had the same surgeon. And he said, bottom line is, Duke, your leg's got to come off. Sooner or later, you might as well just commit to having me amputate your leg at this time. He said, you don't have to give me an answer right now. You can give it to me tomorrow. Well, with that, I left. I was pretty.
I was going to say, Duke, that statement didn't sit well with you, huh?
No, not at all. And I had an appointment with my regular vascular doctor the next morning. It was set up before that. He walked in the room and he said to me, Duke, what's the matter? Look at you. And I told him the story about in there, and then at the surgeon's office. If I can give you a little bit of a picture here, he said he had the note and the stuff on whether to do the double bypass or the single. He leaned back against the wall, folded his arms on his stomach, and looked at me and he said, I don't want to do either one of these procedures. They take too long. I can amputate your leg in 30 minutes and make money on it. I can't make any money doing either one of them bypasses.
Wow.
Okay. Duke, that's...
Oh, my gosh, I'm speechless.
Yes. So how, obviously that didn't resonate with you either. So how did you get to hook up with Dr. Khatib?
Well, that was it. I was telling the vascular doctor here, Dr. Singh, what had took place. And he said, Duke, no, what did he actually say? I said, that's exactly what he said. He said, that does it. He says, you ain't seeing him or anybody else from this office seeing him. And he then picked up his phone. He said, I got 2 people that you can see. He said, one is in Jacksonville and the other is in Gainesville. And I said, Doc, the one in Gainesville is got promoted and gone to Washington. I said, let's go to Jacksonville. So he called Dr. Khatib. And Dr. Khatib said, right then and there, immediately, come out the next day to his facility in Plankton. And they did a radiogram on me. I did the x-rays. He had to go out, came back, talked to me later that night. And 3 days later, I was in his facility in Jacksonville having him go through my leg. And it took him a whole lot longer than what was anticipated. And I just couldn't believe he spent that much time. And we
Dr. Khatib.
Other times of that. But if I hadn't had a doctor in the first place who believed in a second opinion, I'd have ended up having my leg amputated. But he insisted. He said, Duke, you got to make a choice, see somebody. And I seen him, and we talked. And a second opinion, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have my right leg today.
That's an amazing story.
Khatib,
yes, go ahead, Kim.
What was your reaction when he came to you and he told you what the doctor had said?
Well, I honestly, Kim, first of all, thank you, Duke, for coming on the call. I just about fell off my chair. And unfortunately, I was very forthright with Mr. Duke. I told him, listen, unfortunately, doctors, like all other human beings, we're predominantly good people, but we have some that I have no other words to say it, schmucks. I was honestly extremely disappointed. Someone in my profession will say something like this, let alone think it. But long story short, I give Duke and Dr. Prem Singh, his primary cardiologist, tremendous kudos. They persevered. This was more than 4 or 5 years ago now, and we were able to fix the leg. Through that time, over the past 4 years, we've had probably to fix that right leg, I think 4 or 5 times. It's almost once a year. Mm-hmm. But we maintained him. So for Dr. Phillips, I'll explain, we ended up eventually accepting opening his profunda. He didn't have a profunda. First go around, I opened his native all the way down to the knee, and that conduit, whether bypass or native, kept shutting down too frequently. Mm-hmm. So then I went through a long procedure. He reopened his occluded profunda and converted him to a claudicant and got rid of the rest pain. And that has given us actually fairly good, I would say, durability. I mean, we've cut him every time before he shuts down. So when we see high velocities, we'll bring him back and do a short secondary patency type of procedure.
Did he have any evidence of ulcerations or anything that in your mind thought that leg needed to come off? I mean, I find it really hard to believe that somebody would actually say that.
I'm telling you, well, Prem Singh, his primary cardiologist, is very credible. So he also has heard it. The gentleman came with a very cold foot. I mean, it was cold. It was utterly painful. It was really a really tardive parvis type of monophasic, very faint Doppler at the foot in only one vessel, mottled appearing, but no tissue loss yet. He actually walked into my office. And based on that, I mean, he walked and his wife helped him with a wheelchair, but then he was ambulatory into my office. And just like you said, so that alone to me was an absolute no for this amputation.
And I know from the physician's perspective about this revolving door treatments and going back every year, just like you do with your teeth, you get plaque removed from your teeth once, maybe twice a year. There are some people that may get it, to their arteries as well, but some physicians say, no, it's better to just cut off the leg than to have these revolving door of treatments. From the patient's perspective, Duke,
Yes.
what is your preference? Do you mind going back on a yearly basis? Is it worthwhile to go back on a yearly basis?
For the movement and the mobility I have, I'd go back once a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's either that or you lose your leg, right? I mean, it's a pretty simple choice.
Well, what's the option here?
Right.
Who's
exactly
right. Go back? When your car breaks down, you bring it to the mechanic. Your body breaks down, you bring it to the best of the best.
Duke, we've got about 30 seconds left. Give us summarize your thoughts on the care that you had and then the care that you currently are getting. I mean, obviously it's night and day, but just share with us about how to get a second opinion and never stop persevering, right?
Yeah. First off, have faith in the doctor you're seeing. And the doctor you're seeing originally, which I still see, believed in a second opinion. If he didn't believe in a second opinion, I wouldn't have had my leg. He thought enough of me or enough of people that he had said, you've got to have this second opinion. And if it wasn't for that second opinion and going to see Dr. Kym, and he took care of me right away, I'd have definitely had the leg amputated.
Well, and Duke, thanks for joining us. Dr. Khatib, thanks for joining us. And there you have it. Believe in the second opinion.
Patient testimonials are not claimed to represent typical results or guarantee that anyone will achieve the same or similar results. This series is for educational purposes only, and any advice offered is not a substitute for medical advice from your own supervising physician. Do not act on any information provided in this series without explicit consent from your own healthcare team. For more information on vascular diseases, go to www.theweightofmyheart.org.